In this video, we're going to explain how a machine learning model works. This information is necessary for you to perform the tasks required for our study. If you have never heard of machine learning and models before, don't worry, we're going to introduce the concepts you're going to need later on when performing the actual tasks. So, what is a machine learning model? A machine learning model is a computational model built by looking at historical data so that a computer can learn how to make a specific set of decisions in a specific context or domain. Don't worry, you don't need to know the details about how such models are built. You only need to know how a model is actually used to make such decisions and a little bit about how it works. You can imagine a machine learning model to be a sort of magic black box, which receives some data as an input and produces an answer as an output. Let's take a look at a specific example. Let's imagine that you work in a bank, and somebody has built a machine learning model to automatically decide which credit card applications from your customers should be declined and which should be approved. Using the same diagram we have shown you before, you can now see that for this specific example, the machine learning model receives information about each application as an input, and it provides for each application a suggestion on whether the application should be approved or declined. Before we move on, it's important to clarify an important aspect about how a machine learning model makes such decisions. Each application in the credit card example is described by a number of predefined characteristics, which we call features. And such features are used by the machine learning model to assign a specific outcome, which we call a label. Still, we use the credit card application as an example. Here, each application is described by the features you see in this table. We have average months in file, satisfactory trades, total trades, bills paid on time, unpaid balance, and revolving trades with balance. And the model assigns to each application one of the two possible labels, either approved or declined. Let's take a look at some of the applications in more detail. The application in the first row has the following values: 66 for average months in files, 31 for satisfactory trades, 33 for total trades, 97 for bills paid on time, 71 for unpaid balance, and 3 for revolving trades with balance. And the machine learning model assigns a label, decline. When we look at the application in the third row, the application has 124 for average months in file, 9 for satisfactory trades, 24 for total trades, 70 for bills paid on time, 9 for unpaid balance, and 1 for revolving trades with balance. Also, the machine learning model assigns a label, decline. Please also pay attention to these important features: bills paid on time and unpaid balance. Bills paid on time is a percentage of bills paid on time. For instance, a value of 50 means the applicant paid on time for 50% of the bills. An unpaid balance is the amount of unpaid balance divided by the credit limit. For instance, a value of 50 means that the amount still due to the card is 50% of the credit limit. For the purpose of this study, you should then think of a machine learning model as an automatic procedure that takes as an input a specific set of objects, and by looking at the values of these objects, assigns to each one a specific label. Now that you have learned what a machine learning model can do and the concepts of features, values, and labels, it is time for us to provide more information about how a machine learning model makes such decisions. One way to describe this process is through the use of a set of rules, as shown in this branching system. Using the credit card application example again. The way the machine learning model makes the decisions can be described by the set of rules. We have 3 rules in this diagram. When an application comes, if its unpaid balance is larger than 35.5, then the application is labeled with declined. Otherwise, if an application has a value of unpaid balance lower than or equals to 35.5 and bills paid on time larger than 91.5, then the assigned label is approved. As demonstrated, the color of each circle represents different labels. The rectangle. Before we move on, it is important to highlight a couple of things about how the rules work. First, the set of rules describes all possible decisions the model makes. Second, the model may make decisions by using only a subset of the features that describe the object it receives as an input. That is, some features may be completely ignored in the decision process. For example, the feature total trees and some others are never used in this model, since they do not appear in the list of rules. Third, each application matches only one single rule. That is, it is not possible for an application to match no rule or more than one rule. Now that we have explained all the concepts necessary for our study, it is time for us to verify that you have learned them before we can move on to the next steps. As soon as this video ends, please click on the Start Verification button to access the verification test. If you pass the test, we're going to introduce the tasks we need you to perform.